Welcome to a new episode of Alternative Indian Media. Private military contractor PMC Wagner has claimed in a recently circulated video that there was an attack on a PMC Wagner camp in Luhansk region in Donbass. This video footage claims that the Russian armed forces have attacked the Wagner camp from the rear using rockets and attack helicopters. At that time, PMC Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin was there inside the camp who escaped unhurt. However, Prigozhin has claimed that Wagner has lost some men in this attack. We have seen this video footage that is being circulated on the internet and it looks like a false flag. Prigozhin and his 25,000 Wagner mercenaries then marched on to the Russian city of Rostov. Wagner mercenaries seized military commands and administrative building located inside the city of Rostov. At the time of reporting, this was by and large peaceful, and no gunshots were reported. Yevgeny Prigozhin made it clear that this is not a rebellion against Russian Federation or even President Vladimir Putin, rather it is an attempt to clean up the corruption in the Russian Ministry of Defense. Prigozhin's prime target was Russian Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu and General Gerasimov, Chief of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces. In last 9 months and throughout the Bakhmut campaign, Prigozhin has expressed his frustration and anguish against the Russian Ministry of Defense and particularly Shoigu. Prigozhin claimed that Russian MOD didn't provide sufficient munition, armaments and logistics, often withheld the supply which slowed down Wagner's progress. Prigozhin thinks Shoigu is the man to be blamed for all this. And Sergei Shoigu was in Rostov when Wagner mercenaries marched into Rostov. Shoigu then flew to Moscow. Prigozhin and his Wagner mercenaries vowed to march towards Moscow along M4 highway. However, at a later point in time, Prigozhin halted Wagner's march to Moscow to avoid bloodshed. Prigozhin has ordered all Wagner mercenaries to return back to bases. Prigozhin would go on an exile to Belarus and all charges would be dropped against Prigozhin. This is the background. We are now going to discuss 5 probable scenarios. First scenario. Vladimir Putin used to trust Sergei Shoigu a lot. At the start of Russian special operation in Ukraine, Shoigu was pretty close to Putin. In fact, many thought that Putin was preparing Shoigu for the top job once he retires. However, throughout the military operation in Ukraine, Putin has become suspicious about Shoigu. Slow progress of the Russian armed forces, sabotage of Russian military infrastructure within Russia, assassination of top Russian officials within Russia, drone attack on Russian oil reserves and important Crimean bridge were of major concerns for Putin. Putin doesn't trust Shoigu anymore and quite rightly so. So, Putin wanted to get rid of Shoigu. Is this the reason why Putin met Wagner boss Prigozhin 10 days back? So, what could have happened? This mutiny is a hoax. Did Putin tell Prigozhin to start this fake mutiny that would allow Putin to get rid of Shoigu and Gerasimov and instate his most trusted general Sergei Surovikin in more authoritative position? Prigozhin's fake mutiny merely serves as a pretext for Vladimir Putin to clean up the corruption in the Russian Ministry of Defense. Putin also wanted to see who else joins Prigozhin in this fake mutiny. This would allow Putin to identify the traitors in Russia. That is, Putin and Prigozhin are on the same side. Second scenario. Vladimir Putin doesn't trust Prigozhin as well as Shoigu. Putin instigated Prigozhin and at the same time tricked him as well. Putin wants to get rid of both Shoigu, Gerasimov and Prigozhin. Putin would first sack Shoigu and Gerasimov and then tell Russian armed forces to care of Prigozhin. Putin probably has a substitute ready within Wagner ranks to lead Wagner. Wagner mercenaries would be forgiven, Prigozhin would be purged and Prigozhin's substitute would take over as the new Wagner boss. Third scenario. Shoigu was in contact with CIA all along. Shoigu got the wind of this fake mutiny beforehand and Shoigu contacted CIA. Probably, Putin himself instructed Prigozhin to share this information with Shoigu. Once Prigozhin started his move, that is this fake mutiny, Shoigu and Gerasimov and their loyalists in the Russian military command would force Putin to declare Prigozhin a traitor and pressurize Putin to take tough military action against Prigozhin. I think Shoigu and Gerasimov pressurized Putin and sent fighter jets and combat helicopters to stop Wagner mercenaries towards Moscow. Wagner forces shot down Russian military aircraft as it was not in the original script. This would make Putin unpopular among the military ranks and loyalists, and at the same time Putin would lose a trusted ally in Prigozhin. Shoigu and Gerasimov thought that Putin would lose respect among common Russian people as they would think that Putin had backstabbed his ally Prigozhin. Let me tell you that Prigozhin was quite a hero in Russia before he started this mutiny. Shoigu and Gerasimov would then occupy power. That was Shoigu's plan. But this would have unmasked Shoigu. Putin and Prigozhin played on the same side. Fourth scenario. Prigozhin and Shoigu were on the same side and they both were in touch with CIA. Prigozhin was tricked by CIA and Shoigu to start this coup, which was initially aimed to topple Putin. Prigozhin and Shoigu thought that many units from Russian armed forces would join Prigozhin in Rostov and then they would march towards Moscow. That didn't happen, and Shoigu fled to Moscow in an attempt to come clean before Putin. Shoigu is trying to act loyal in front of Putin while waiting to see if he gets support from Russian armed forces. Understanding this, Prigozhin has stepped up his verbal attack on Shoigu. Prigozhin then halted the march towards Moscow and ordered Wagner mercenaries to return back to bases. Fifth scenario. Prigozhin has acted alone under the instruction from CIA. His antipathy towards Shoigu is just a cloak. He intended to start a coup against Vladimir Putin. He took Rostov-on-Seas and was waiting there to see whether other Russian units join him. He demanded the removal of Shoigu just in order to keep a lifeline open for himself. Had other Russian units joined him, Prigozhin would have shifted gear and demanded for Putin's ouster. This mutiny was a hoax. It was a fake mutiny. Vladimir Putin wanted to identify the traitors in Russia. But in doing so, Vladimir Putin, to a certain extent, played in the hands of Shoigu and Gerasimov. Putin might initiate cleansing and purging operation in Russia. But at the same time, Putin faces the risk of getting toppled as Putin might get portrayed in poor light within the Russian military ranks. Vladimir Putin took a huge risk and gambled with his life to identify traitors in Russia. And now he must succeed. Thanks for watching this episode. Kindly share this episode and subscribe to this channel.